Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Monday, a new week of new opportunities. Well, not so much perhaps, as we do actually have a holiday for the 4th of July. So happy 4th of July to all the people celebrating out there. Happy midsummer-ish for the Europeans, I think it is. And if it's just a regular Monday, happy Monday to you as well. Other than that, a few catalysts coming up in the next few days. Wednesday going to be FOMC minutes coming out. So I expect probably a bit of an ebb and flow into them, but basically just been looking at a line chart for the last few days, and that can definitely go on for another day or two right here. Other than that, I wanted to, yes, get into the sale. We'll actually swing back at the end of this video, assuming that it's not too long to explain it. But basically what it comes down to, just watch the promotional videos in the store if you are interested to begin with. They're going to explain who they're for, who they're not for, so you can make an educated decision for yourself. Other than that, let's just jump into it right now. I think today is going to be more or less nice and streamlined. And basically what do we see over here on the 4-hour time frame? So representing kind of like the medium to short time frames for Bitcoin. Well, we see a bit of hidden bearish divergence coming off that last local high confirmed. It looks like, yeah, right around the daily close right there. To the time that I was waking up, that accompanied with very low 4-hour BBWP does give the potential that we actually do see resolution on this potentially today. What would actually constitute resolution on this as the easy move back down to the bottom side of the range is more or less already played out. Maybe extend it another, oh my God, we're looking at $200 moves right now. Fucking amazing, man. Holy shit, just tear out my eyeballs at this point. But ultimately, we still do have that potential inverted cup and derp over here, as that is one of the few patterns that I will call out from time to time. Again, my favorites are, of course, ascending and descending triangles. Other than that, I really don't care about patterns. But in this case, at the end of the day, it's trend that matters most. And what's Bitcoin kind of wedging itself into right here, whoops, as I get my drawing tools out, do a little bit of old kindergarten drawings on my charts here. We do have a bit of a descending triangle and an overall downtrend, obviously. We might even call this the Haro pattern, the H of death, basically. And it's just a rolling over pattern a lot of the time, but ultimately not confirmed, most importantly, until we actually see resolution on this overall formation. And where would that be? It needs to close below the low of this guy right here, which was the 30th of June. So I think that was like sometime last week, which is basically like 18,600. Let me see what it is on CME. I think it's a little bit more obvious here. Yeah, basically the same, about 18,600. Any sort of a 4-hour time frame, or especially a higher term time frame closure below that region, then I would be looking for the intended target to play out from that, which does have an implied target actually to new lows in this case. New lows implying somewhere at around $16,500 right there. So ultimately that would, I suppose, I'd be where I'm looking for if we did see a closure below that region. But ultimately, because this does have another lower high in place right here, there is a way to negate this, most importantly, which we'll get into in a little bit. So there's going to, as with any one of these patterns, they just have a, typically a higher probability to play out in the intended fashion. But ultimately, we're going to talk about an invalidation, which I do think that there is good reason to believe, or at least to prepare for what would likely happen if that invalidation is hit. But before then, I need to round out the bearish case a little bit more. So in that case, we'd go over here to the daily for daily stochastic momentum, still to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 20,140. Of course, it did not hold above the pivot that we outlined a couple days ago and continues to not hold above it. And also on CME, I do believe that it's below it right now as well, or just right around. It's 19,031. That's basically where CME is right now, 19,045 or so. Again, coming off these low levels right here really does make me consider that this, we could be heading into a bit of a trap. Bitcoin's extremely likely to bounce and have a pretty significant bounce, as we'll go over in a bit. But ultimately, the question is, does the bounce come from here, basically this $19,000 pivot point, or does it come from, significantly new lows, somewhere between about $16,500 to $17,000? That, I don't have a strong opinion on. I'm just waiting for the market to kind of reveal itself. So what else do we have as far as that goes? I forgot to mention that on other lower term timeframes, we are going to see the 4-hour stochastic momentum turn down with any sort of a closure basically below $19,000. Bitcoin's, basically a sneeze away from that as of the current moment in time. And that accompanied with low volatility, plus the hidden bearish divergence that we also saw over here, plus just a general downtrend, plus an overall, statistically more likely to be resolved bearish formation going on right here. It does make me consider that the downside risk is, still very much relevant here before a generalized bounce. Other than that, I also forgot to add that on the funding rates, we even see ever so slightly positive funding rates. Now, these are not like anything super high, but generally speaking, when you have funding rates that are on the opposite side of the general trend, like the dominant trend on the daily, that is, these have provided some nice, some nice setups in the past, basically. And it's been working really, 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 really well, although not perfectly, as nothing is perfect over the past 3 months now. But yeah, that would also kind of add onto the case of, of downside here as we see ever so slightly positive funding rates. So longs are paying shorts to hold their positions while being mostly underwater or very, very close to being underwater. And we have a general dominant downtrend and have been having that for since about like December or such. Anyways, so yes, that is the bearish case. Again, contingent upon validation below 18,600. And then, yeah, I suppose I'm looking for at minimum a retest of our current lows at 17.5 and then what's another $1,000 on top of that? Get us out of this fucking range for perhaps. If that were to happen before FOMC on Wednesday, that would very, 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 very likely set Bitcoin up for a nice major bounce. Potentially even as much as like 25 to 30%, as we'll go over soon enough here. Okay, so let's talk about invalidation and where that would happen. All right, so first and foremost, you'll have a major warning that not just well, the problem is that downside hasn't been validated just yet, but it would essentially validate a trap. Yes, that's what we're looking at. So, or potentially looking at. So first and foremost, major warning signal with any sort of a tick above. I'm guessing this is yesterday's high. Yeah, it is 19,640. Just a quick spike up there. It looks like. I guess I was in bed by then. That's 11 p.m. I'm definitely not awake at that point. And fully confirmed with any sort of a closing higher high above this little swing high over here on a 4-hour time frame, which is about basically $20,000, a little bit below $20,000, but good enough is good enough in that case. If that does happen, then what? Then what would I essentially be looking for? Well, we have to look at the domino of effects that would occur if that were to happen, which over here on CME would confirm actually some pretty significant bullish divergence. Now, it would just be 2 drives coming off the lows, but significant nonetheless, and likely does imply at least a move back above that resolution point. And, very likely targets up towards at least $22,000, maybe somewhere between $22,000 and $23,000, as we would also see the daily jewel probably get a bullish signal there. It's not there right now, obviously. It's in the extreme zones. And at some point, again, whether it's this one, the next one, or perhaps the one after that, sometimes you do see about 3 tests on them, usually 1 to 2. Those are some pretty powerful signals. So that's why I do hesitate to call like immediate continuation to new lows from right here without a confirmation. Because once that does hit, we probably are looking at a pretty big bounce. But again, don't confuse bounce with a reversal. I think like best case scenario for Bitcoin, just shooting you straight, is probably $23,500 anytime soon. Just personal opinion, we'll go over in a bit. But ultimately, yes, so we do have that in place right there. It is not confirmed though. In order for it to be confirmed, we need to see at minimum, like the most front runnable would be with a 4-hour closure above that last spike high that we saw from yesterday, or I guess this morning, depending upon your time zone, which again is about 19,640. If that were to happen, then I go to this chart over here and reference this signal as well, of which it hasn't gone away. It's still here. Again, it's not validated just yet, but a daily closure above 19,032. And yes, we would see a daily stochastic momentum cross to the upside. This would be a corrective signal within the context of volatility actually contracting right here. So we're not looking at like a major reversal. Again, like mood mode's not happening anytime soon. But probably does put in a nice move. Why do I say that? A couple of reasons. So one, we had the bullish divergence on the daily possible that we looked at over here, plus the daily jewel. And then also on this chart, which I think is also rather important, anytime that we have seen the daily stochastic momentum oscillator get down to this green horizontal bar, which has only happened 7 other times in CME history, going all the way back to the Genesis here, not including our current 8th time, there has been an average bounce overlaid from that region. Whoops, oh, bastard. Well, how could you do this to me, TradingView? There we go. All right. Autistic rage averted. It was about to be yelling, man, but I don't think I have the energy for it this morning. Still kind of reveling from the lack of sleep the other night. Anyways, bounce, historically speaking, has been just below 31%, and the days to till that high after the cross has been on average just over 14 days. So just over 14 days, just over 2 weeks from that actual cross. So again, it completely depends when we actually see that happen from. If it does happen at the current lows, so something like this, whereas 25% puts you $23,500, that's good enough. 30% does put you at about 24. Maybe there's a wick up there, but I do imagine that there's very unlikely to be any higher term time frame, like a time frame that has meaning, let's say, for overall trend or anything that really matters in this game. Closure above that region, $23,500. And of course, if Bitcoin does play at the downside move first and then bounces, let's say, off of like an FOMC minutes, whatever the fuck, thing over there, perhaps that comes all the way down from about $16,500. That point, probably looking more towards 30%. That puts Bitcoin at about 22, just under $22,000. If it plays out to a higher end of that, 40% puts Bitcoin at about $23,500 right there. So ultimately, it completely depends upon where we find this next low, for example, which again, I would not in any way, shape, or form entertain the possibilities of that until at minimum, we see either a higher tick high or preferably a 4-hour closing high above that 19,640-ish region. If that happens, this very well may be a pretty nasty trap. All right, sweet. We're 11 minutes into this video. I think that's a good place to kind of shut it off. I forgot to shield Bybit. Bybit has actually a pretty damn good promotion going on right now. They are offering 0% maker fees, meaning that you don't pay any fee for putting in limit orders, assuming that they're filled off market. And you get that for 30 days if you use the link in the description below. Of course, it's a referral link, so full disclosure there. And then also that they'll actually be running that promotion until the end of the month. So that's actually pretty damn cool. Anything else? Yes, the sale, but just watch the promotional videos. They're going to explain who they're for, who they're not for. Don't jump into any one of these programs if you're unsure of it. That's usually a really good sign that it's probably not going to be for you, especially with the TA and options program, because these are really intense, long programs, like 30, 40. I think the TA program might even be getting close to 50 hours now. And also a big not just time commitment, but also financial commitment as well. So with that in mind, I'm going to be signing off. I want to wish you well, take care, and see you hopefully soon.